Growing up, I found a lot of routine in my day-to-day life. It looked something like this. There was a drive to school every morning where I passed by the same man playing guitar on his front porch, the same snacks that I grabbed on my way to whatever sport I was practicing at the time, and most notably, the weekend gatherings of my very large extended Egyptian family. Each of these activities bonded me to others and began to form my first sense of community. Whether it was my classmates who also chatted about the man on the front porch, my teammates who I spent every day after school with, or my family, who shaped the largest portion of who I am today. And in each chapter of my life, I've been challenged to redefine what a community looks like. The community where I engage daily as an undergraduate student looks very different from my childhood community. I discovered that community is found not only in the experiences that come my way, but in those that I can actively seek out. When you stop to think about how you connect to a community, what comes to mind? Does it look something like this? This, right here, is my breeding ground for community building. A crowded kitchen, too many used dishes, ingredients of every variety pulled out for using. Some might consider it to be overwhelming, but I find it to be a place to figuratively and literally cook up connection. Throughout my life in an Egyptian kitchen, the purpose for my large extended family to gather was to eat. My immigrant grandmothers are the stereotypical chefs who eyeball every measurement, pull recipes out of a mental reserve, and for those reasons, taught me in the kitchen less recipes and more lessons about life. How there was power in food as it brought people together. Those weekends, I saw a beauty in community. While it was food that brought us together, it was only the bridge that sparked conversation on life and other happenings in the world. When I came to the University of Florida, I longed for connection, and I found so through food. I found comfort in my solo bake sessions and trips to farmers markets for pies or fruits, but what I craved the most out of the cooking and the eating was the part where I gathered with others. So I began to cook more, and it intersected with the quality time I spent with my friends. It bridged us closer and closer together as we created a space for conversation and vulnerability. In every ad-lib recipe or communal potluck, we shared ideas and we shared stories of how our families did things in the kitchen and how things were in our lives. But why does gathering matter so much? There are a lot of parallels between gathering, community, and social justice. In the modern age of social action, diversity and inclusion have become the golden words of our society. But how do we bridge these into a reality? We find the answer to this in community. When we create communities based on our shared interests, we're able to be brought together in ways that supersede race, religion, socioeconomic status, or any other identity or element of life that may prevent the intersection of diverse corners from gathering. And when these communities are built based on our interest, diversity and inclusion become the core of their existence, rather than an element of division. It's important to note, though, that identities are intersectional, and that whatever an individual comes to this newly created community of interest with is a bunch of other histories. And this is the key. To be part of many communities is essential to our holistic understanding of ourselves and the world around us. Additionally, it serves as a tool to engage with others empathetically. Let me visualize this for you. Imagine a paint palette with colors organized into their own individual spaces. The wide range of colors represent the many communities we are born into and represent. But as colors interact with others, we create a new shade or a new community, separate from any individual identity. So, in the same way that yellow paint, when connected to blue paint, creates a new shared green paint, when I engage with others through the meaningful connection that I find through food and cooking, I'm able to understand, learn, and engage with even more perspectives and communities that I am not individually a part of. All of this while preserving and bringing to those conversations everything that I embody as an individual. We've seen this work in subtle ways, and as someone planning to enter medicine, I'll speak of it in the context of healthcare, where connection is the basis of success between the patient relationship to the larger medical infrastructure. When I pick up the phone to call a patient at the mobile outreach clinic, I typically start by finding one point of connection that will allow for other non-connected issues to be brought up. So, when we first get on the phone and start laughing about how the kale salad recipe really did the trick on their digestive system, that vulnerability and trust formed invites conversation about food insecurity and mental health they may also be facing. Our shared experiences become a common ground and a starter kit towards social justice and social change as we become allies and advocates for one another on these larger issues down the road. But social change is big, and it can often be difficult for an individual to find a place to start. I want to help open the floodgates of thought into where, within yourself, you already hold the first materials needed to bridge yourself into another community. The materials are sourced from any passion or interest you hold outside of your regularly programmed identity. Film appreciation, painting, working out, volunteering, you name it. For me, my community of interest found a home base in the kitchen. I found a connector to others through food and cooking and in the beautiful moments of togetherness created because of that food. It wasn't that everyone in my kitchen was a professional chef. It's that we were all able to understand one another through the universal language of food, which brought us together. For many sports fans, the excitement or even the distress of last week's game can be the start to further conversation. Whether you are the player or the observer, the supporter of the winning team or not, there's a connection there that can lead to an understanding outside of that shared sports community. For environmentalists, attending, for example, a volunteer cleanup can connect you to others who have a shared passion for environmental activism, but hold an entirely different unshared identity that you can learn from. It's almost as though you need to find within you your outer layer that will connect you to a community, lead to a conversation, and allow for shared understanding and actionable reflection. Whether it's a kitchen, a sporting arena, a place of solitude, or your very own home, there are so many places to find connection. And I challenge you to think intrinsically about what supersedes your identity and use that to connect communities. It's exciting to know that through the resourceful intersection of your passions, you can be a community builder. There's no need to invent a new skill or wait for something extraordinary to happen in your life. You have the power to connect to somebody right now, today. Think of the space you frequent the most. Your workspace, the seat you take in class, a spot on the bus, wherever. Now, think of the people who surround you in that space. If you ask them, they probably don't have the same name as you, probably don't have the same favorite food as you, and probably have a different understanding of life than you do. But they, for the same reason or not, landed themselves in a spot that day next to you and would benefit a lot from getting to know you and why. So, I'm not asking you to cook more or even to eat more. I'm calling on you to find your kitchen, your place for community building. And maybe you might just even get a good dish out of it too. Thank you.